Welcome. Quick disclaimer before we begin. This video will be entirely focused on Valentine's Hildegard and her unique approach in Legend Volk. This approach is going to be technical and challenging to a degree, and it is mainly used for fun or as a challenge to yourself. If you are a player simply looking for a guide on how to tackle Legend Volk, this is not the video, as this video is entirely focused on optimizing Valentine's Hildegard's supporting capabilities in this fight. With that out of the way, let's begin. Let's begin with the different builds that can be used for this strategy, as some are more beginner friendly than others. Do note that this strategy demands the player to have already unlocked the 6th and 7th Wurmprint slot for your weapon. This is due to the fact that this approach can be tight on rotations, and having the highest amount of skill haste possible reduces the difficulty for executing it. With that said, let's begin with the easiest and least resource demanding build for this strat. Let's start with the shared skills, as they are the core for each build. Like the 6th and 7th Wurmprint slot, having Lily's share skill is pretty much mandatory. This is due to its 200% chance at applying the enemy with the freeze status. At the moment, no other skill has a higher percentage for applying an affliction that stops the enemy on its track, not to mention it being a shareable skill. As for Bug, the only two shared skills that have the highest rate at applying it, while being generous on its speed cost, are Summer Salira's and Summer Julieta's, both having the same rate for applying Bug at 120% chance. The reason why the affliction percentages are important is due to Volk's resistances in the fight. At a quick glance, you can see that Volk has a 100% resistance to freeze and 99% to bug. This raises the question on how you would apply constantly freeze and bug on hand throughout the fight. The answer lies in his special mechanic, Plague. Plague is a unique affliction that is applied from certain attacks in Volk's fight. It has the unique property of reducing the player or Volk's resistances. On Volk, his resistances are set to a fixed value and will remain so until Plague wears off. The lowered resistance values enable the use of freeze and bug in certain spots of the fight. However, there's a problem. Transferring Plague requires the player getting hit by Volk with a physical attack while they themselves are plagued. Doing this will cause your unit to stay either stunned or slept and will immobilize your unit. This is where Valentine's Hildegard comes into play, as her second skill grants the unit a shield that nullifies any attack that deals less than 40% of her total HP. For this reason, we will also be using Affliction Guard in her print setup, as it will allow us to transfer Plague to Volk without getting slept or stunned. Now that we've covered the main mechanics for the fight, let's go over the builds. The current build is the cheapest option print-wise, since we will be using Sinister prints only for the Bow's Boon to enable skill haste affinity. The second print build will provide more stats to Hildegard and help her tank some of Volk's attacks with higher consistency. The last build uses Arctos over Phoenix as a dragon. Shifting from Phoenix to Arctos will make things slightly harder in execution, as rotations will need to be near perfect in order to make them work. Not to mention, using Arctos as your dragon will demand you have all the stat boosts possible from other sources, like Halidom or weapon bonuses, since you'll be ridding yourself of the 45% HP boost Phoenix grants, hence reducing your shield's ability to tank some of Volk's attacks. The only reason Arctos is considered a better approach is due to his ability to cancel the tornadoes at the end of Phase 2, allowing your team a final chance at reducing Volk's HP before he enters his Berserk state. One final note, using Arctos is only possible if you have Crumb's Co-op as a backline, otherwise you'll be facing some problems for tanking Volk's attacks. Now with introductory stuff out of the way, let's get into the fight itself. Final note, maintaining as many stacks of Affliction Guard is key to make this playstyle work. This means you'll have to dodge every single move Volk throws at you, including the small wolves. The reasoning being that every single attack in this fight will consume a stack of Affliction Guard, with the exception of Wolf's Bites and Resentment Fog. Now then, let's start with the easiest rotation for this playstyle. We begin the fight by instantly healing before the Plague AoE and using Shield after it hits. Using the shield, you then transfer Plague onto Volk by tanking his spin move. Be aware at this point to stay away from the Affliction Mines. This playstyle completely prevents you from taking any of them as they will consume a stack of Affliction Guard. When he begins walking to the center, cancel his next move using Lily's Freeze. This will give your DPS players a lot of freedom for taking the Affliction Mines. Afterwards, you must recharge your second skill before his drill attack. Right at this moment, you must take Plague back from Volk by staying as close as possible to him. Otherwise, you will not be able to cancel his next moves. You inevitably will end up losing one stack of Affliction Guard due to the poison pool. So make sure to do everything possible to maintain the last two stacks for the rest of the fight. Here you must use your second skill and tank Volk's second drill dash. This will transfer Plague onto him one more time and you will be able to cancel his teleportation move. Afterwards, it's the DPS's job to rush the fight onto phase 2. From this point onwards, you'll have to spend the entire fight simply evading every single attack as you want to avoid losing Affliction Guard stacks until later on in the fight. This is where the real challenge begins, since playing flawlessly to avoid every single attack can be somewhat challenging even with the benefit of having infinite roll iframes. At this point in the fight, this team has done enough DPS to skip the first red claw swipe attacks. If you are using any of Phoenix's builds, you can actually transfer Plague onto Volk if he does one of the red swipes. This can only be done using Phoenix as your dragon, as you won't have enough stats to tank this red swipe if you're using Actos, which will end up making you lose a stack of Affliction Guard. The only way to do this with Actos as well is if a party member plagues Volk themselves for you, be it accidental or willingly. If you are not able to transfer Plague early on in phase 2, spam your bug skill as much as possible to apply bug on Volk. Even though he may not be plagued, you still have a 21% chance to apply bug on a non-plagued Volk. Do this in order to help your team with DPS. Bug as an affliction makes the enemy receive 50% extra damage from any attack. This is a huge boost in DPS, and if your party members take advantage of it, it will notably speed up the fight. Before moving on, just as a quick note, right here at this moment, if your team hasn't done enough DPS to skip this purple AoE, you must use your dragon to tank it, or else the attack will consume a stack of Affliction Guard. It is possible to simply tank it using your second skill, however, keep in mind that for that to work, Volk can't have any strength buff. Now comes the most crucial part of this playstyle. Keep in mind that there are different approaches for what's to come. I'm simply going to show the one I'm personally more accustomed to. You need to heal right before Volk finishes summoning Resentment. You can use the charge time for the fog as a timer for when to use the skill. You need to do this because you need to take the first claw hit in order to transfer the first plague. As soon as you get hit, use Lily's Freeze and bug afterwards. Hopefully your team has Volk close to break at this point in the fight. If bug successfully gets applied, that extra 50% damage is going to be a huge boost in damage for that small period of time. The second claw tank can be hard to time properly for various reasons, as you need to use your second skill for it. Firstly, you must take heed for the Blood Moon's Absorption God. If you time your second skill poorly, you can end up losing your shield before the claw hits you, which in turn causes you to lose your final Affliction God stack. The second reason why it can be hard depends on when your team breaks Volk. If Volk is broken at any other point that is not between the first and second claw time frame, you will not have enough time to recharge your skill for the second claw. For this reason, you should still have your force charge print ready for use. This way you can recharge your skills while Volk attacks you. Keep in mind that you have to regrab Plague from Volk or the Fog once more before tanking the second claw. After the second claw, the rest is fairly simple. Just recharge your skills before the third claw happens. Tank the third claw with another shield as 2, and the fourth claw with your last affliction guard. Unfortunately, in this clip, his overdrive state cleared freeze instantly. This is one of the few things that can ruin the rotation. However, as shown in this other clip, the actual rotation should have followed as such. This pretty much covers the entirety for Bug Valentine's Hildegard playstyle in Legend Volk. One final small advice I can offer is to only use this strategy when no other party member is using a healing skill. This includes overdamage skills. Particularly, Akashas and Summer Veritas can pretty much ruin the entire thing, as their heal over time can ruin your chances at transferring Plague onto Volk. One final thing, the rotation shown in this video is only the easiest one in practice to my understanding, and doesn't change regardless of what dragon is used on the Hildegard. We've now reached the end for this tutorial. Shoutouts to UTO or Pan as the player who introduced me to this strategy. I will leave in the description the runs for Actos and Phoenix's playstyle, even though both of them are fairly the same. Thanks for watching the video everyone, take care.